hi to the Quilliterate Book Club. So I will just say that there. So I'm actually hosting live from Quilcene, Washington, with the Quilliterate Book Club, and there's maybe 10 or so in the other room. And I just stepped out to do the broadcasting live from the other room because it's logistically it doesn't work out, but there's a little delay. So they are in there. I might try at some point to go in there and just do a little scan so people can see that they're there. So yeah.
Hello, book club.
So why don't we start then? So I would want to just first say I'm so excited, Paige, to be working with you. So everybody, this is Paige Reisenfeld, amazing actress and narrator. And I just feel so lucky to have you. I just love what you're doing, turning Midnight Calling into an audiobook. And so, you know, doing something live like this too is just different for both of us. This is my first Instagram live that I've broadcasted. So, you know, thanks for doing this. And I kind of have a few questions I thought I would do to kick it off, but I want to let you just introduce yourself first, Paige, and tell people a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, I'm Paige. I started narrating like for real in May of 2021. So I'm still relatively new at it, but I mean, I've always been an avid reader. My dad taught me to read when I was really, really young. And I was voted best reader in kindergarten. So it all started kind of there. And then I went to school for classical voice. I did children's theater once I graduated. And then the pandemic hit and I was like, well, what do I do now? And this is it. And it's so fulfilling to tell such cool stories, fictional or nonfiction. It's just an amazing opportunity. And it's an honor to be a part of that.
Well, it's really probably good for actresses too, because all the live things, you lost those opportunities, right? And I mean, were you still singing somewhere though? You're a soprano, right?
Yeah. I sing at a Presbyterian church. I actually have rehearsal after the live tonight.
Okay, so you can keep singing.
Yeah, I can do that. And occasionally I still do shows. I did something in December. It was very small, but I got called in 2 weeks and they were like, hey, our soprano wasn't vaccinated, so can you learn this role and do it in 2 weeks? And I'm like, I mean, I haven't sung in 6 months, but all right. So it was fun. It was a good time.
Great.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so I thought I would just describe a little bit about how we found each other. So I used Amazon's Audible platform. It's called ACX. And I put a script out for people to audition for my book, not knowing what to expect. And I got like 53 auditions in a few days, really, or maybe a week in total, but many came in the first day, which I don't know if that's normal or if it's because actresses are having a hard time finding work with the pandemic. But I just kind of curious to hear on your end, how does that look for narrators? How do you pick who you want to audition for or which books?
It's going to completely depend on the narrator, what they're interested in, what they're looking for. Like I told Jen, if I don't connect to the audition script that's posted, I generally don't audition for it, because if there's no connection, I'm not going to be the best choice. But if it is something that I read and I'm like, you know, I can do this, I can feel that it feels right. I don't know how else to explain that. It just feels right coming out of my mouth. I hate saying this, but there's not a lot of thought going into the performance, if that makes any sense. I don't have to, there's certainly thought going into it, but it feels more intuitive and more natural. And those are what I tend to audition for or gravitate towards, which is probably why I don't get a lot of YA, because I just don't tend to gravitate towards that kind of thing. I don't really have the voice that people are looking for that. So you just kind of find your niche, and if that's what clicks, then that's what clicks.
Mm-hmm. And is there a difference? I'm just going to wave at people. Hi, Kathy. I know Kathy. So excited to see someone I know. Hi, Kathy. Is there a difference between narrating a memoir? So my book, for those who may but just be joining, is Midnight Calling, a memoir of a drug smuggler's daughter, true story. Is it different narrating a memoir versus a novel?
Yes and no. A lot of that has to do with what the author is looking for or the rights holder is looking for. There are some who want just a clean, this is a person reading you a book. And then there are authors who want a performance. So it's almost more like an audiobook drama. In dealing with you, you definitely wanted voices. You wanted a certain attitude, a certain coloring of the world, which for me leans more towards the acting novel kind of version of it, and it's also first person, so it's inside the head. But then there are some auditions I read and they want it clinical. They want it to be, this is my story and you are just reading it to somebody. So yeah, the rights holder has some creative control in that regard. So
yeah. And how do you actually do it? Like, are you literally reading the book from a screen, or do you print it? I mean, you have to see the words. And my book club, Quilliterate Book Club, in there had asked, do you read the book through first, or do you just read it as you go?
I definitely read the book first, because you never quite know what an author is going to surprise you with. The very first book I did, it's called The Secret of the Grand Hôtel du Lac, and it is historical fiction, World War II. And I did the 15-minute checkpoint, having just read like the first 3 chapters or so, did the 15-minute checkpoint and got to chapter 24. And it turned out the main male character, who doesn't show up again after chapter 1 until chapter 24, she mentions has a hoarse voice because he was in an explosion. So luckily, I only had to go back and redo like 15 minutes of work. But I mean, there are horror stories of people going like, oh no, like chapter 40, and this guy was supposed to have gravel or a Scottish accent the whole time, and you have to go back and do that. So
Yeah.
Also, I think it feels, I think that, especially in fiction, at least, you have an idea, you know, as the narrator, things that the reader doesn't know yet, and I think that can color how you deliver certain lines. It means something more to you, especially in first person, than it does if you don't know those things later.
Interesting.
So I think that's very important. So, and also I read from an Amazon Fire tablet, because anything makes noise. So if I'm turning pages, the microphone would pick it up.
Right. Yeah. So how do you, and whenever you feel like there's something you want to share, like I know we talked about maybe you can turn your camera around and share like bloopers or whatever, but how is there parts of narration where you're just really in a flow and you just read, or narrate and don't have to, or is there a lot of always sort of stopping and redoing things, and that's where maybe you want to do an outtake or two just to show people an example?
Yeah, it depends. A lot of times I can get in a groove and just go for days, especially if it's just straight narration. But a lot of that has to do with whether or not, do I have a lot of mouth noise that day? If I do, then I have to stop and go back to try and get extra clicks out, or extra like just saliva sounds that my digital audio workstation won't necessarily get out. And you can hear that. What's going on outside my booth. Like, I love my booth, it's fantastic, but today has been especially painful because I had some guy outside, and I'm 60 feet from the road, revving his engine, just like literally every 30 seconds, and it was like a and I'm like, I am in a double-walled studio brick 60 feet back from the road, and you are peaking at negative 24 dB, and my room tone has to be negative 60. Like, that's ridiculous.
Really?
Yeah, so
maybe you could use that. There's a scene where my crazy boyfriend in high school was driving crazy in the car. Maybe you could use that background noise. No, I'm sure, because it obliterates your whole narration, right? You can't hear it. Yeah.
It does.
Okay, so while you think about maybe if you want to show an outtake, I'm going to read a comment here from Lisa, the wife. I've missed some of this, but do you think authors should read their own work? You know, I chose not to because I'm not an actress, and I don't have the range that Paige does in her voice, you know, to do my dad's voice and my brother's voice and my mom's voice and my voice. But more importantly, I just don't have the skills to do that drama that you do so well, Paige, you know, where you're, you know, not going too overboard, but I love the way you add tension where it needs to be. And drama or or anger. And I did not feel like I had the ability as an author to do that. Some authors maybe can. So I think it just depends on the authors. Yeah. So.
Say that
And then
the Audies this year, which is like the Audiobook Awards, a lot of them were written and narrated by the authors. But most of those are from major publishers, and so they usually have a director who is there who can help with that. The only reason I would say authors, I mean, besides what you've said, Lynn, is might not want to do it is the investment in all of the equipment and learning the digital audio workstation that you choose. It's a huge time investment. Learning to do that, it's a monetary investment if you don't have equipment or a sound treated space. So those would be my only things. But I mean, sure, anyone can do it. If you think you can do it, if you want to do it, give it a try. There's a narrator, Sean Pratt, who's also a coach, and he says if you think you want to narrate, go into a dark closet with a flashlight and read out loud for 2 or 3 hours a day. And do it for 2 weeks. And if you still want to do it, then you can probably be an audiobook narrator.
Yeah. So do you got anything you want to show, just kind of as an example of how it looks behind the scenes?
Sure. Do you want an outtake, or do you want like a tour of my workstation, or?
Yeah, maybe. Why don't you do a little tour and then maybe an outtake?
Sure. All right. Let me pull this up. I'm going to flip this around. So, oh gosh, TikTok. Okay. So this is my tablet. This is normally not here, but I keep it right here. And then this is my Microsoft Surface. It doesn't have a fan because that would create noise. And then up here is my microphone. I have it at an angle with a pop screen because you get less plosives and such if you're at an angle. And also mouth noise in general. And then so this booth, this is my sound curtain over my glass door. I have no kittens standing guard today. That's good. And then it's just 3.5 by 5, like so. And then this is Reaper. This is my digital audio workstation. And I don't have my microphone on, but I've got a bunch of hotkeys. So if I just click B, there's a timer that starts counting down. And then if my microphone were on, it would be recording everything I do. And I can press spacebar to stop, go back and do it, so on and so forth. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah.
And is that, so it's not a closet in your house, because part of that's just a sound curtain, you said? So part of it is like just a sound curtain. It's not all 3-walled or 4-walled?
It is 4-walled. This is actually a studio book. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, this is a separate, oh, hi, Odin. This is my little blind kitten. So this is my room, and then, I'm going to turn it around. It's a freestanding 3.5 by 5 by 7.
Literally. Wow.
Yeah.
Like a little booth.
It is.
How cool is that?
My door and then,
serious.
Yeah. So she was also an investment. But we live in a house built in 1910, so the insulation and sound dampening is basically non-existent. Yeah. So what has been has there been a hard part about narrating Midnight Calling? Or, I've been enjoying the bloopers that you've been putting on TikTok. I see Nazi said that same too. Nazi said she's loved the bloopers. So yeah, what's going on there? Like how, what's the hardest part, or when are you getting the most bloopers and shit? Let's see some of them. Switching voices, honestly, is where usually the bloopers happen. Or anything that has similar consonant clusters close together. Here, I'll show you the one from the 15-minute sample. Here we go.
Yeah.
And hopefully the sound will be on. And I will move this. And here we go. Maybe. Good. Now slide one of these cleaning cloths through the Now slide one of these cleaning cloths through the cleaning cloths through. These cleaning cloths through. These cleaning cloths through. These cleaning cloths through. These cleaning cloths through. Now slide one of these cleaning cloths. Now slide one of these cleaning cloths through the slot.
And I remember when I saw this on TikTok, I said, oh gosh, just change it, because You just don't realize writing dialogue, you know, how it would sound when you try to narrate it. I was like, just change it. And that was one of the questions the book club here asked, like, do you give your narrator authority to change things if it doesn't work right? And we never talked about that, but I would be fine if that happened. You know, like if you're reading something and you're just like, this just doesn't work, just to tweak a word. Do narrators sometimes take that leeway, or do you ask the author? And I'm telling you now, you can do that, Paige.
No, I always ask the author because I believe that you wrote what you wrote for a reason. And so I definitely would try to honor that. And for things like that, if I find that I'm not getting it after a certain amount of time, then there are things I can do. I can go back later when maybe my tongue is working better, or I can do like, so for example, slide the cleaning cloths through, and then because it's digital and I'm editing, I can just go back and take out the space. So, you know, just editing magic. But then there are times, and I will say Jen Netzi was very, very, she was not as strict on requiring things to be the same because my partner is not an audiobook narrator and reading is not his strong suit. He has a great voice, he's a great actor, but he reads what he thinks is on the page, not what is actually on the page.
Interesting.
Minute or moment, he would forget S's a lot, so I got very good at copying and pasting S's rather than have him record everything. But she was like, it's minute, not moment, whatever. In a publishing company, though, there's actually a discussion in one of the Facebook groups I'm in now. It was nonfiction, and they wanted to keep everything in it, including the ums and the ofs. So a narrator had to sit there and actually read, well, I think, maybe this, well, so it was what was actually there. So that's what you have to narrate.
Wow, interesting. Yeah. Well, I'm giving you some license if something doesn't roll off the tongue. So what else? How do you keep and I'll track for questions too, but how do you keep track as you're narrating? I mean, I've listened to, I don't know, hours of your stuff so far. I've been checking that as Paige gives me a few chapters, I just check it and listen to it and make sure nothing stands out as like not sounding like the right. I mean, I was looking for maybe mispronounced words, but more like, this doesn't really sound like how Dad would have said that kind of stuff. But how do you keep track of how the voice you're doing for my father and the voice you're doing for my stepmother who had a Southern accent? I mean, do you have lots of notes or what? And then if you want to, I don't know, any other examples you want to give to?
Well, in your audition, you gave me character traits, which I kind of will either associate with somebody I know or at least give me an idea of what that sounds like. Like when you're talking about your dad, we have a tour manager where I was working before the pandemic, and I was like, oh my gosh, he sounds exactly like Gordon. So now when I do it, I'm like, oh, in my head it's Gordon, and I know exactly the smile to put on, the tonality. But in a more precise manner, I also have, and I'm going to turn this around, I keep a folder right here, and it's called Midnight Calling Character Voices. So as I go through and I'm recording something, I've got just a list, and I need to add Floyd and Tom in here because I don't have them right now. And I just did Tom today with his New York gravelly rasp, which might sound a little more like Jersey, but anyway. But I'll go through if I'm having some issues, and after I've recorded it the first time and like you okayed the 15-minute checkpoint, I just went in and I took clips of certain dialogue long enough, put it in its own file, and created an MP3. So if I need
it's an audio file. Oh, I see.
So I can just go in and listen to it again and be like, okay, yeah.
Interesting, right, yeah. And gosh, I mean, I don't know if you've got a clip that's got like where you shift from like, a male voice to a female or something, but I mean, do those take several takes? Like when it's, say, me and my dad talking or something like that, like, is it hard to shift like a low male voice to a high female voice? Do you do it just right off you shift just like that?
It depends on how different they are, how different the tones are, the conversation. I had that, well, you got lucky, young lady, the shift from your mom yelling at me to being like, I didn't mean to do it. Like, that was harder. But then shifting from like your dad, just slide the cleaning cloths through the slot. And then my dad was so great. Like it doesn't, that was less of a shift.
That's
It
cool.
just has to do
That was cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
no, and also just practice the words, sometimes the headspace that I'm in. Sometimes I'm like, I need to get up and go take a dance break because things aren't working. So, yeah.
So Kathy is asking, how long did it take to recite the book? Just reading, not the editing, or maybe a chapter or something.
Are we talking narration? Or
Yeah.
actually? Okay.
Yeah, to narrate, yeah.
Again, a lot has to do with what's going on outside the booth and what's going on inside my mouth. But generally, the formula that ACX says is it takes about 2 hours of narration of recording to do an hour of narration.
Wow.
And then 4 hours of editing to do an hour of finished narration.
Wow.
So,
and does that resonate as a pretty good estimate?
It can. Some are faster than others. Some aren't. I did chapter 13 through 16 today before this.
And can't wait to listen to them.
Yeah, I'm going to go in and edit them before I do that, and that'll be what I do on Sunday. But chapter 13 came in just over 30 minutes, like maybe 31 minutes. It'll be a little bit shorter once I go in and take out extra breaks and things like that. But that took me almost 2 hours because of this engine revving person. And then I did 14, 15, and 16, which are each about, I think, 12 or 15 minutes. So probably 45 minutes total in probably about an hour. So that one just went, because there's a lot of narration in those as well, not a lot of voice switching. So
and that goes quicker. The narration goes quicker. I see. Yeah. And so what we're saying is not narration like her narrating, but when in the book I'm not in dialogue. So in the book when I'm just narrating and talking about what's happening, that's what I mean. That goes quicker than when you're doing dialogue for characters.
Right.
Yeah. So for those who are on, so I think my Audible, Amazon's platform, is how Paige and I found each other, estimated my book to be about an 11-hour book. So it's going to take you, so I'm hearing you, 22 hours just to narrate the thing and then 44 to edit it.
Roughly,
something like that. Wow. Wow. That's really impressive.
Yeah.
So you got a good example that just shows your amazing range of how you do all those voices. They're so amazing. I mean, you are just so amazing, Paige. I'm so thrilled.
Thank you.
Or another blooper or something that you think is funny. There was a real funny scene where we were doing this on TikTok where my brother was telling my mom about our new stepmother, the woman who my father left my mom for, and my brother saying that she's got big boobies. It was so funny.
I can play that one if you want.
Oh, whatever you think. I trust you. Whatever you think you got that might be interesting.
I don't know that I have anything that wasn't. Well, I mean, I guess I have the opening. I think I posted the sneak peek opening.
Yeah.
Of your younger self.
Yeah. Why don't you do just a little of that so people can hear it, in case they haven't heard your narrating voice.
My narrating voice. All right, I think this is it. Chapter 1. We were walking behind a hedge that screened our house from the street. That hedge was my castle wall, my hiding place, my brother's source of ammunition, wormy berries that exploded red on impact. I had just glanced at Mom when Dad jerked his hand out in front of her. In the space between them, I could see our front door. It was open a crack. Dad spun around to face us, serious and focused. Back to the car. Lay down on the floor and don't move till I come back. Looking down at Ricky and me, he pressed his finger to his pursed lips. Mom hurried us into the car and scrambled in behind us. Ricky and I hunkered under the glove box while she leaned over and rested her arm across us. It was a warm day, but a shiver ran down my back. Afraid I would see a bad guy reaching in for us, I kept my sights off the windows. I tried not to move, just like Daddy told me, even when my feet prickled with pins and needles. When my neck ached from being wedged in there, I rested my chin on the seat. I stared at the creases in the upholstery that were supposed to make it look like real leather. Up close, I could see tiny cracks branching out from some of the creases. Those were from our car baking in the Miami sun day after day.
One thing that's really cool about hearing that is it's as an author, I don't know if you ever hear this, Paige, but there's something really profound about hearing your work in narration. It's really profound. I don't know. It's like I feel like it's bringing my story to life in a way that is so much richer. And I'm an audiobook lover, so I felt very committed to having an audiobook made, but just brings it to life in a kind of cinematic way, right? So I'm just really grateful. And I wasn't looking for a certain voice. I should have said this in the beginning. I wasn't looking for a certain voice, like a voice that sounded like me necessarily, but I was looking in my auditions for like a youthful sounding voice, and also one that wasn't just too perfect, right? Like I don't know. I sometimes I find audiobooks can put me to sleep if someone has just a really beautiful voice, and I think you do have a lovely voice, but sometimes it's just kind of, I use audiobooks to get put to sleep, but I just love that your voice is just very rich, and I love how it's bringing my story to life, so I'm just so grateful for that. It's really exciting for me.
Like I said earlier, it's an honor to do that, and that you're happy with it is even better.
Oh yeah, I just love it. What you should do, one of the other outtakes, just because they're funny, the boobies, or what was the other one? Oh, the yucky. Yucky. When I got yucky, those are fun.
Do you have a preference?
Oh, whatever, whichever one you think. Or you could do both of them.
Okay, well, let's see here. I think I got the boobies one pulled up. I'm ready to go.
And so this is when, again, this is the one where my brother's telling my mom, we just met my new stepmother, and he's telling her, hey, let me tell you about our new stepmom.
And now, in phrases we don't always get to say, but today had to say at least 5 times to get it to sound right, I give you, and she's got big boobies. Ricky said. And she's got big boobies. Ricky said. And she's got big boobies. And she's got big boobies. And she's got big boobies. And she's got big boobies.
And so so you just weren't getting the feel you wanted, right? You're trying to channel this 11-year-old boy describing his new stepmom to his mother. Like, I didn't tell you how to make that sound. What were you looking for?
An energy. I think at the end I was just like, okay, I have 2 younger brothers. How would they have sounded when they were 11? Like, they know they're about to say something that they aren't supposed to say. Uh-huh. They know they may or may not get in trouble for it. They're just looking for that kind of mischief, but also he's also being honest. Like, and he's also, he said he was 11, so he's also kind of on that cusp of, puberty, where he's starting to notice that this is a thing, that, big boobies are a thing. So trying to capture all of that, and then just part of it is just, how does it feel? It feels right.
Yeah. And you totally nailed it eventually in the version I listened to. You totally nailed it, because he was like, he was totally like describing her and kind of alarmed because she was, big breasted. So it's just really cute. So I loved how you captured it. So what else? What are you, what are things that you want to tell us about just narrating, a book that might be unknown or surprising, or anything about narrating a book? It was really interesting to see that you literally are in this sound booth. I didn't know you're literally in this booth. That's cool.
I am. It's actually my happy place. But
and do you let your cats in there?
Not when I'm recording. Not when I'm recording.
Purring or something.
Oh yes. And they're both lovers, so they like.
And it would pick up. And it would totally pick it up. Oh, cool.
Oh yeah. Okay. Odin will. If I'm in here too long, Odin will park himself outside the door and just start howling, and he's like. And when you record, you're recording it so you want your narration to peak around -12 to -6 dB because of the sound requirements for ACX. It eventually needs to cap at -3. So you want to record lower and then boost your sound so everything kind of comes up. But when I do that, you could definitely hear him on occasion through the door. So that's definitely something to listen for. Um,
Yeah. Interesting.
yeah, I don't know what to say about narrating it other than like it isn't for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It is so much fun to do though, if it is for you. And
Mm-hmm.
it's it's not easy money. There's a thing going around TikTok. They're like, do you want to make some
Mm-hmm.
quick cash? Like, just go ahead and narrate some audiobooks. I'm like, no, I can't take my iPhone into the bathroom and record. Like, that's not how that
Right.
works. Um,
Right.
so there's this idea that you can do it anywhere, that it's fast,
Uh-huh.
that it's
Uh-huh.
easy, and it's easy is relative.
Yeah. Yeah. What about authors? Are some authors easier to work with than others? You've done four of these now? Four?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it,
Yeah.
or,
I'm working.
or,
I think yours is 5, and then I have 6 and 7.
mm-hmm.
I have not had any bad experiences with authors. Um, I have heard horror stories. The main issue that most people have is that a lot of times the author wants creative control. And part of the, at least ACX standpoint, is that once the 15-minute checkpoint is okayed, and that's why you can ask for any 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be the first 15 minutes. Like Lynn spliced together a few scenes so we could get different voices in there and different tones in there.
Right.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but once that's kind of approved, it's generally supposed to be author hands off. My very first book, the historical fiction, the 15-minute checkpoint, there's a French character because it takes place in the Jura-Comté region of France on the Swiss border. And she came back with the accent's too heavy. So I redid it with a lighter French accent. And that's just something I kept in mind throughout, is that sometimes she was like, if you don't want to do an accent and just do it clean, you can do that too. I've
Wow.
studied too
The
many
whole
foreign
book was,
languages to not do that. I was like, no, it doesn't feel right to me. But
and the whole book was in a French dialect or accent.
not the whole book. No. That one was, I narrated like this. This was my normal narration voice.
Oh, I
But,
see.
but the main character, Elizabeth Maxwell, she spoke in RP, so she was very here. And then her love interest was lower and raspy, but also RP. And then there were like 30 different French characters who would talk up here or talk down here, or, just, and then there was some
Wow.
German in there and some actual French, which was fun. That one was a lot. That was a lot of work, a lot of.
And are you trained in that? Like you took training and how to do? I actually happen to know one of the people on here, Z is Wiser, does some accent work. I mean, just for fun. Is that something that you took training to do?
I have always loved foreign language. I took 4 years of Japanese in high school. I was a Russian language minor. And then when I went back for
Wow.
voice school, I took French, Italian, Spanish, Castilian Spanish, German, and Latin. So
Wow.
being able, and then one of my favorite websites is called the Dialect Archive, and you could just go click anywhere and look up and listen to people from that region talk. And I'm like,
Wow.
and I've always been a mimic, so I'm like, okay, yeah, I need to listen to this for a few minutes. Like I just did an audition that had a Mexican accent, and I had to go in and listen to it because I was like, my Castilian Spanish is not right. I need to go in and hear how this works.
Interesting. Huh?
Um,
Okay, can you just do a Russian accent for me? Can you do one?
oh gosh, hold
So
on.
do you speak Russian?
I read it a lot better than I
Okay.
speak it.
Wow.
But hold on, I have to get in that. Очень приятно.
I bet.
Yeah, go with God. Everything. That's more French. I have to, to get out of my
Yeah,
head.
it's hard. Yeah.
I do not know. That's still very French. I'd
No,
have to
that I
go.
hear it.
I'm in
Yeah.
French mode at the moment.
No, I heard
Um,
it though. Yeah.
but my
Yeah.
teacher always laughed at me because she said I had very Balkan French.
Oh, really? How
Because all
fun.
of my
That's
R's were much
fascinating.
further back because I studied it
Uh-huh.
earlier in life than I studied French. But
Yeah. Yeah, and there was a question too about how are you asked to do many accents? So are you asked to do many?
depends on the genre completely.
Right. I mean, the
Um,
only accent in mine was I have that Southern accent for very few characters.
right, and I think Tom,
I
you
don't.
said New York, so
Oh,
doing
yeah,
a
he
little
did
bit.
have a Bronx. He was from the Bronx. Yeah, that's true. Oh, I
Okay, then
can't
I
wait
think
to
what
hear
I'm
that.
doing is
Yeah.
right. Cool.
Yeah, he was totally from the Bronx. Oh, yeah, I can't wait to hear that one. Yeah.
So, well,
And I will
we'll hear.
have to say, as an author, it's really intense to hear voices when you nail it. It's kind of emotional, actually. but maybe because they're memoir. It's a memoir. I don't know if novelists feel that way, but for me, it's something that's kind of intense. Like, wow, she really nailed that. And then it just kind of emotional because I was there. They're real people.
I considered it a win when Jen, when she listened to chapter 37, which is the second last chapter of the book that we did for her. And she was like, I cried so hard.
Oh, totally. Like, yeah. Yeah, yeah, totally. There were some intense narration scenes for me that you did. It was pretty emotional. So, okay, so anybody else who's on, you can, in that little box down there, you can type in a comment, the one that has that sort of oval box, and then there's the dialogue, the talk dialogue bubble with the question mark. You can put a question there. And I am just going to sneak in to just show the book club that I'm with, just because they deserve that.
Acknowledgement in person. The dialogue, question there. And I am just going to sneak in to show the writers, the book club that I'm with, because they deserve that.
So I just did a little scan real quick, but do you all have any questions you want to ask? Because I know you can't go up and... Okay. Okay, we'll talk about it. Is there another one? Okay, book clubs want to know. The Quilliterate Book Club wants to know, how do you get paid? So I will just say that I found Paige through Audible's platform called ACX. And there is another platform I could have used called Findaway Voices, which is like the big alternative to ACX, but I did find ACX platform much easier to use and so much easier to explore narrators. Findaway, you just put your script in and they send narrators your way, whereas on Audible's platform, I can search for them. But then I think, so we have a contract, right? Like we signed ACX has a standard contract. And I guess I just pay you at the end?
Yeah, so with ACX, there are 3 options that rights holders can put up. There's royalty share, which is exactly what it sounds like. You put it up, the narrator does it, no money exchanges hands, but then you split any royalties from sales. I believe it's a 40%, and then you each get 20% in terms of royalty share, if it's exclusive. They also do non-exclusive, and I don't know what the details are on that.
You can't do non-exclusive, I don't think, with royalty share, I don't think, because it's so small. It's 25%, Okay.
Then there's royalty share plus, which is royalty share, but also with some upfront money to the narrator. For example, if you are union, the royalty share plus lowest rate for the book to qualify is $100. So it'd be $100 per finished hour plus royalty share options. And usually that gives the narrator the option to outsource the editing, because most editors and proofers and masterers cost $75 per finished hour. So that way they can pass it off and can continue narrating, but they still get a little bit of money on the side. And that way, if the book doesn't do well, they still made something. But then if the book does well, they get royalties as well. And then what Lynn and I did is just per finished hour. And that means at the end of the book, once Lynn approves the final version, this is what I do, everybody is different, but I will send an invoice via Stripe. And then once I receive the payment from Lynn, I go in and click, I'm done, or sorry, I've been paid. And then it goes to quality control for ACX.
Right. Okay.
And they listen to it, make sure it passes all the audio specs, that pacing is correct, that there's nothing, I don't know what else they're looking for.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like outlying that's weird, or that it matches the text.
Decibels, I think, too. Decibels, too, I think.
Yeah. Your noise floor, your mouth noise. And just also that it matches the PDF that you uploaded as well. They download that and they run a thing that makes sure that there's only a certain number of errors. They will send it back if it hits too many. Findaway, I believe, is only per finished hour. There are also other distributors, Authors Republic, for example. That one, they don't match you with a narrator or anything like that. That you and a narrator contract outside of it. The narrator does it, has the files, gives them to the author, whatever.
You load it up. You load it up,
And then
Yeah.
Authors Republic, the rights holder uploads all of the files and picks their distribution platform. And I believe that is all. I mean, depending on what you
Yeah, I
choose,
think
the
those are,
royalties from
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So,
And that's interesting. I knew that they had a contract, like the boilerplate contract language was from ACX, and I signed it when I accepted whatever, when we reached agreement to work together. So I didn't know it was going to come from Stripe though, so that's good to hear.
and it may not,
Okay.
the very first one I did through PayPal, but PayPal fees are
Well,
ridiculous.
yeah, but I
So,
mean, regardless, I mean, you actually send me an invoice or something, and then
right. Yeah.
I pay you.
ACX does
Yeah,
not
yeah,
handle any money changing hands
right,
beyond royalties.
right. Interesting, yeah. And so that said, I guess I don't see any other questions and comments. So I will just say, so, oh yeah, so the comment here, a great narrator can make a good book even better. Oh, so that is so true. Yeah, yeah, so true. We have the end of the narration is supposed to be end of March. I mean, I don't know if you're still on track for that. And then I don't know how long it will take to go through the QA/QC process with ACX. In your experience, did it take a couple weeks or what?
It varied. Their language is that it takes 10 days or less. Secret of the Grand Hôtel du Lac took about 14.
Mm-hmm.
And then Savior, which I was surprised because it's 35 hours, I think took them like 6 days.
Wow. Must
And
just
then,
be how busy they are or something.
right, or who's on it. And then I just did a little novella that was 3 hours, and that was, I think it was 3 or 4 days. And I think Afterlife was about a week and a half. So it's just completely varies. But they say it's supposed to be 10 days, no more than 10 days. So,
Right.
and
Okay.
my
Yeah.
goal is still to finish by the end of March. Like I said, I've finished through chapter 16 today, and I'll work tomorrow. So my goal is to get more chapters done.
Okay.
And then spend Sunday editing and getting you those next few.
Right. Yeah, because I think it's 31 chapters total. Isn't that terrible? I don't know. I think it's 31. So
I am on page.
you're halfway there.
Yes, almost exactly. I'm on page 154 out of 302 on the PDF.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So you're almost exactly. Yay! So exciting. And so my plan is to, once this gets approved through ACX, to have it out on Audible. So for those of you who are interested in an audiobook of Midnight Calling, a memoir of a drug smuggler's daughter, that will be out hopefully in mid-April.
And I think you actually get promo codes too, Lynn, for different.
That's right, I do. Yeah, so I can do some promos and some, when it gets released. So be looking for that too. So, and then if anybody wants to check out more about Paige, I love your website at Paige Reisenfeld. It's Reisenfeld. I love the videos of you singing because I just love your voice. The soprano singing is really beautiful. So
thank you. It has been updated in a while, but
yeah, but it's just fun to look at. And then just if anybody's looking for a narrator, I highly recommend her. So for those who joined, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. It was our first Instagram live, so hope folks learn things, and I will save this too, and so I guess I'll share it on Instagram, and then Paige, if you want to share it, I don't know how that works on your Instagram page as well, so it'll be available. Or if you want to, if you want to put it, I don't know, whatever we can do with it. So
I think the little highlights that come up, I think I can be like, hey.
Yeah, yay. So good. Thanks for doing this, Paige, and thanks everybody for joining. It was really fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Pleasure to meet you, book club.
Yay. Yes, thank you, Quill Literate Book Club, for hosting me. So fun. Thank you. Okay, bye all.